Hello everybody, this is Bird Brain, where here we are nerdy for the birdies. So, the Eagles have completed training camp and we are now moving on to the final preseason game. I'm recording this on a Thursday, so I wanted to take this time to kind of talk about some of the roster battles and how they've turned out. So, without further ado, let's take a look. So the first one I want to talk about is quarterback 3 between Dorian Thompson-Robinson and Kyle McCord. It feels to me that Kyle McCord has taken this job, and especially in the last week or so. And I think the first indication came last Saturday. In the game, neither quarterback was amazing, but it felt like there were other circumstances that hurt things. The lack of a run game, bad offensive line play especially, but it felt like one kind of just didn't make the situation worse, and the other one made it worse by trying too hard. And the one who made it worse was DTR. He had 2 egregiously bad plays, basically doing the same thing twice, and that's infuriating that you're a veteran who in his career has like 1 touchdown, 10 picks, and here you are trying your best to throw more because you're trying too hard to make a play. It's okay to take a sack sometimes. On the other hand, Kyle McCord didn't really make those egregious plays. He almost threw a pick in the game, but the pick would have been on the receiver, hit him in the hands. The ball just ricocheted into the defender. It was called back anyway due to penalty, I believe. But the point still stands is like, he played fine. And then this week, Tanner McKee gets hurt. He was obviously our QB2. Kyle McCord was QB3, and he did some good things. He also did some not so good things. But again, he's a developmental quarterback. It's the plan from the start, in my opinion. I just think DTR at one point in the summer was playing well enough to challenge the spot, but has kind of come back down to earth. So, wide receiver depth has shaken out very interestingly this week. We talked a couple days ago about the John Mechie trade, and now here we are, and we now have another development in the wide receiver room. We now know that Johnny Wilson is out for the season, so that means now it feels more clear on who these receivers will be. My guess is the Eagles keep 6, AJ, Devontae, Dotson, and then you also keep Mechie, Cooper, and Ainias Smith. And feels pretty smooth there. It feels pretty easy to just kind of slot those guys in. It's a shame for Johnny Wilson that he had to suffer that injury. It felt like the last couple days it was going to be an interesting camp finish, like who would make the roster, because most of us doubted that they would keep 7. And then lo and behold, Wilson injury happens, and it kind of gives the Eagles an out, so I think they'll keep those 6, and we'll keep pushing. So, the offensive line battles, there's been a couple, and obviously right guard, Tyler Steen won that outright. I mean, it wasn't even a competition, but really the question on everyone's minds has been offensive line depth, and we saw it last Saturday in the Browns game. It didn't look very good. We'll see it tomorrow, or today, technically, because I'll be releasing this on Friday, during the Jets game, how it looks. But man, if the offensive line depth is this shaky, you worry about guys going down. I mean, Landon's already injured. Jordan Mailata's dealing with a concussion. Lane's an older guy. He gets dinged up. You do worry about some of the depth. There are some guys that have shown a little bit. I thought Drew Kendall's had a pretty good summer. Darian Kennard's been solid, but some of the veteran tackles have been a little disappointing. Some of the rookies haven't shown as much as we thought they would. But we'll see what happens the next couple days. They have another game here to show a little something, so who knows. Next up, we have CB2, which is probably been the most infamous battle of camp, and how that's shaken out. And it feels to me right now, Adoree Jackson CB2. Now, he feels like CB2 the way that like Devin White last year felt like a starting linebacker, which he's been solid, he's been okay, he's been whatever, but it's like it just feels like maybe he isn't the best, but no one else has really taken the job yet. But then week 1 comes along and Nakobe starts, and Nakobe was fine week 1, and then we're like, alright, we don't need Devin White. So who knows what happens week 1. There's still plenty of time to decide that battle. I don't think Adoree will be the starter through the entire season. My guess is Jacorian Bennett will get a good amount of snaps at that spot too. I thought he showed some things on Saturday. And I think potentially Matt McWilliams can roll into that. It feels like Keely Ringo's kind of fallen out of favor with the team, unfortunately, in that regard. He was with the third team the last few days of camp, so it just feels like he kind of lost that battle, unfortunately. He was who I hoped would win it. It would be a great situation for the Eagles. They'd have him under contract for the next 2 years and wouldn't have to think about secondary, or at least corner, next year. So, that's a shame. And then last but not least, we have safety. And that battle feels like it's an interesting battle that came to an end. Because Makuba feels like the guy that the Eagles wanted to win the battle, and he kind of did, and then he has a hamstring injury, so we'll see how serious that is for week 1. But I think Sidney Brown has had an okay summer. He hasn't been like terrible, but he also hasn't been like amazing. He's made plays here and there, but he's also missed plays here and there. But I think like I'm personally more comfortable with the safety position right now than I am with the CB2 position, and if that's the case, I feel like if 4 out of 5 members of your secondary are solid, I think you're okay. So that's kind of the thing that's putting me at ease about CB2 a little bit. But safety competitions kind of boil down to that. So I'll be interested to see how healthy Makuba is week 1 and who starts at that position. So the last thing I want to bring up, obviously I'm going to do my own predictive depth chart probably around Sunday, and then later on the week, we're going to do a reaction to the 53-man roster once it's announced. I'm going to give it a couple of days to marinate because, you know, there's always the initial 53 that's announced. And then a couple of little moves here and there happen, and guys get moved on, get moved off the roster. And then you find out by like a couple days later, it's like, oh, they made this trade and this trade. So we'll see what the Eagles do. Anyway, this is Bird Brain. Hope you guys enjoyed being nerdy today. Fly, Eagles, fly. See you around.